I still remember how it was, lost and lonely without a cause. Shades of gray.
Hello?
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Greg. Thanks for
Hey,
talking.
what's up, guys?
We're doing great.
Doing well, man. How about you?
I'm all right.
Oh,
It's
man.
been a long journey on Brian Banks, as you know. We
Yeah.
all started together way down there in Memphis, and I just sat in a hotel room with Aldis all day long talking about the movie, and it was great reception to it, which was cool, and just fun to kind of relive the experience of the making of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, that was almost 2 years ago. You know,
Yeah,
it's great that
yeah.
it's just finally coming out and people are responding to it so well. That's awesome.
Yeah, we really were kind of all down there together in Memphis, working together for like a big goal, to tell Brian Banks' story. And
So yeah, here we are with Oscar nominee, the legendary Greg Kinnear. I'm Ivan Wuchina. This is Ian Wuchina.
Yep, he's got a big movie coming out
Yeah,
August 9th, Brian Banks.
He's getting some great buzz, especially his performance too.
Yeah, we know he's been busy doing his rounds promoting that movie and
everything else he's got going on. So we're really lucky to have him here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Of course, we couldn't think of a better first guest. We talked to you on set one day, or it was at the rap party, and
You think it was the rap party?
you just heard our enthusiasm for movies, and you're like, man, you guys got to start a podcast, and I want to be your first guest.
Yep, he said that to us.
And that was awesome.
That's right. By the way, I am the Frankenstein of this, ladies and gentlemen. I am the mad doctor that has created what is before you right now. Okay, go to it, guys.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was really fun on set that day. We brought the Captain Amazing action figure from Mystery Men, and you said you were surprised by that? You didn't know that there was like a commercially produced Mystery Men action figure?
No, I didn't really know that, and that had kind of gotten lost on me. And then I was actually cleaning my office out, which is something I do once every decade, and I literally did it like last year, and I had like a box of some Mystery Men action figures. So I guess I just didn't know at the time they did make a Captain Amazing action figure, and I had a few boxes left over. But you guys were the first ones to walk up and say, "Hey, look, it's you in doll form."
Yeah,
we're honored, man.
We're honored. I mean, not many people get their own action figure, so that's pretty cool.
That's saying something. Yeah. And that was like.
Well, that was one of our favorite movies growing up. It was like. School had just started, and us and our older brother were bummed, so our mom took us to see that, so it was a good memory.
Yeah, and your character was like easily like our favorite.
Oh, he was just so all over the place.
The corporate bought out superhero.
Yeah,
it was just brilliant.
I liked where Jeffrey Rush says. I still use it with a friend of mine. He says, my nemesis. I say, we've always been each other's worst nemesis. And Jeffrey Rush corrects me and says Nemesi, and that always stuck with me.
Yeah. Jeffrey Rush was a great villain. Yeah,
that's awesome. Like, we love hearing the trivia that you still kind of use that with your friends.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And then back around that exact same time, a couple years before that, you were nominated for an Oscar. We wanted to just kind of,
a good question is just like, not very few people, get nominated for Oscars. That's an awesome thing. Like, what was it like? Did like everybody you knew call you up when they heard it on the news or something?
Yeah, it was like
Greg.
Was your auntie calling up and being like, "Greg, you were so proud"? Like, how did that go down?
I don't know, man. I was in New York actually when it happened, and I think they announced it out here in California at like 5:30 in the morning. So I was like, I don't know. I heard it on the TV. And then my publicist called. He couldn't reach me. This is kind of might have been pre-cell phones or something. I didn't have one anyway, and so I heard it on TV. And then then I think a couple of calls came in, and then my publicist let me know. But it was a little different in the sense that the social media landscape wasn't telling you everything that's happening in real time at any given moment. And it was, obviously really cool and, great thrill. And I love that film. I still can't believe it's 20 years old, but I still love that movie. In fact, it was funny doing these interviews today. We had two guys come in, two different interviewers who say that tell me that they had Brussels Griffons. And the reason they have Brussels Griffons is from As Good as It Gets. So we we were like creating like the way 101 Dalmatians created a glut in the Dalmatian department. We did the same with Brussels.
That's awesome. Yeah.
See, there you go. Man.
Yeah, I'm sure that was just a big surprise seeing it on TV of all places.
Yeah, like
that's awesome.
I'm nominated. Like that. That's great.
Yeah.
And then we know that you.
A big thing you do is you play a lot of real life characters, like people
who actually existed.
You're so versatile. You jump from comedy to drama so well.
That too. Yeah.
And it's really great that you play all these real life characters. Like, is that something you really like to do? Is to play real life characters? Like,
it's just something you're obviously really masterful at.
Yeah.
And
I don't know. I mean, I feel like there is something that resonates with you more. I mean, when you hear, look, if you read a good script, it's a good script. It doesn't make no difference, no how, whether it's real or not real. A great script's a great script, but there is something. There is a real intoxicating factor when you consider a real, the reality of a story. When you start to populate it with people who were around or are around, and you just start considering the non-fictional aspect to it, it really draws me in. And I do find that, the idea of having somebody to kind of refer to or talk to, Justin Brooks, when we made Brian Banks, is just such a great resource. This is a guy who started the California Innocence Project and has exonerated, over 30 people. I mean, these are people wrongly convicted, been locked up for 10, 20, 30 years. And, he's like if I read that script and I didn't know the reality of it, I would play that role with a real chip on my shoulder. I'd be like angry and a little more hostile because you'd just been seeing how screwed people get by our criminal justice system. And then I meet Justin Brooks, and this guy is incredibly positive. He's like he's funny. He's got a great sense of humor. He's not overbearing, and he's not cynical. And I wouldn't. So that's just like a way that you get, getting to the truth of that through the reality of the guy actually existing is a great discovery that you don't get the benefit of on a fictional story, of course.
Wow. Yeah, and it's a lot different than when you played JFK, which did a amazing job as well. But JFK wasn't on set a lot of the time like Justin Brooks was, so it's probably a different, completely different experience in a way. Like it really did help a lot. Yeah.
Justin was on set.
Justin Brooks was on set, off and on. That was cool, yeah.
Yeah, no, Justin was there all the time, eyeballing me, man. He'd come up and give me acting notes, for God's sake. So,
wow.
And it's true, you said, I mean, now, JFK, obviously different story, but, even that, I mean, in a story like that, or in any, true life, fictional, or a true life story where you have as much information in terms of books and in terms of YouTube and just video to consume on a real life person. It's always an added bonus.
I like that.
Awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure it can be daunting too, because that's what you do. You act, but then when you're jumping into a character,
it can be daunting. You don't want to let that person down if they're still around, their family or just their legacy. And
then, and you get to
completely. I mean, you do feel like you. I mean, exactly. I think there is a higher bar set when you're playing real life people. Yeah.
Oh yeah, and Bob Crane, your movie Autofocus, we got you to sign that DVD on set one day.
Yeah.
That was just another incredible role you did. We
were. Larry Karaszewski came to Memphis.
Yeah, Larry Karaszewski produced the movie. He was in Memphis at one of the festivals,
and somebody was yelling.
There were people saying funny lines from the movie.
Yeah,
somebody yelled at Larry Karaszewski the line that Willem Dafoe says, "It's an orgy."
It's an orgy. I grow. Yeah. People listen.
So that was random. Yeah. So that's a lot of people like that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
Willem's got some great lines in that. It's a group growth, Bob.
Yeah. Just a crazy story. It's just I love, true stories that are just crazy that nobody has seen, but when it's brought to screen, it's just, it's always so, it's very fulfilling. Movies like that. Yeah.
A lot of grandiose kind of
I think Autofocus was the first time I had played a real life guy, and I grew up as a kid. I just I loved Hogan's Heroes, and I remember being out at the schoolyard and some kids saying, yeah, remember the Bob Crane? That didn't end well for him. And I was like, what? That guy didn't end well? What are you talking about? I mean, I couldn't believe it, and then I didn't hear about the sex addiction and kind of all the details of his life, but I heard just about this horrific death that had happened, and I was so stunned by it because you think of him as like, he was kind of the Ryan Seacrest of his time, and it was just so off-putting. And then of course diving into that movie Autofocus, and Paul Schrader's got a very wicked eye, and really along with Scott and Larry had created a real world there that we were asked to go into and not blink.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
All right, anybody listening, big recommendation right there.
Yeah.
Autofocus.
Yeah, everybody watch that movie. Another important question is, what are some movies and maybe some actors or performers that inspired you as a kid, or early in your career when you were getting into acting, or just at any point?
I liked Richard Dreyfuss a lot.
Awesome.
I loved William Hurt, who I met one time at a golf course, and literally couldn't say anything. I was so starstruck.
That's awesome.
William Hurt, I always thought Body Heat and in so many movies. I mean, I just was always. I loved his subtlety. He could do so much with a look, and really held the camera beautifully. Roy Scheider, incredible, person that had stayed with me through so many films, and Gene Hackman. Now I'm just getting into the regular guys that we're all amazed by. But I don't know. I mean, as a kid, I don't know. I had it was kind of an offbeat thing. I grew up overseas in Greece, and the movies that I would see, we didn't have a lot of television over there. Unless you wanted to watch Greek television. So it was. I was always getting kind of odd bits and pieces of exposure to film and television, and kind of had a crazy group of guys, I guess, who sort of inspired me. But those were all, top drawer actors that really kind of blew me away.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What are some of the favorite roles of your own that you've played? Some that just kind of stick out to you?
I don't know. I mean, I really liked Richard Hoover in Little Miss Sunshine. I mean, that was obviously a really fun film made with, a wonderful group of people who had John and Val, Jonathan Dayton, Valerie Ferris, they just did a wonderful job at kind of, stewarding, I would say, that cast and kind of bringing us all together early on in a great environment and kind of helping us know who we were playing. It was a long rehearsal process, I remember, and people don't rehearse enough anymore, and I wish they did.
Yeah, rehearsal, I hear, can really help the movie. Yeah.
Kind of building those relationships.
Yeah, because really it's about building relationships with your co-stars and the crew, and it really does help.
And that was
trust.
So,
you want to trust the people that you work with, and it's hard to trust the people you haven't hung out with and gotten to know. And funny enough, there are many movies that or projects where I show up and not a lot, but where you show up and all of a sudden you say, "Hey, how you doing?" and suddenly you're in front of a camera. It's just that is a quick dive, and just it doesn't allow the process to be as enriching as it should be.
Yeah, true. Especially
you guys are really good at this. Wait a sec. I'm just realizing I'm your first podcast, and you guys are really. I knew you guys would be good. I saw you two, and I was like, these guys are going to be good at this, and I was right. You guys are a couple of very big. Can I call you movie nerds? Is that okay?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, we call ourselves movie geeks or film enthusiasts. Yeah.
Yeah. You guys knew a hell of a lot more about film than I did. I remember talking to you down there.
Oh, we just grew up in front of the TV. We grew up on a farm, so there wasn't a lot to do, except for playing outside. But and we didn't have cable till we were like 7. So
and then when we got cable,
we rented videos all the time until like age 7, and then when we got cable,
Where would you rent the videos?
Oh,
just a small town nearby.
Yeah, just like the most podunk video store you could think of.
So we grew up in Middle Tennessee, and there was we lived in the country, but there was a small town nearby that we rent videos from. Yeah.
Hey, that's how Quentin Tarantino did it, man.
Oh yeah. You know, that's actually true. And
Yep.
Did you guys see Once Upon a Time in
Oh,
Hollywood?
we did.
Yes, we did. Yeah.
Incredible.
We enjoyed it.
What did you say? What do you feel like?
I just think it was just a great portrait of that time. You know, the music. That was just what stood out to me. It just sucked you right into that time, that place, the zeitgeist of things. It was just.
Yeah.
It was very good,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
And then you got Tarantino, just, you know, he put everything into the movie, and and I like how it's a little genre change from what he kind of.
It was one of those movies that everybody is in, like we were talking about Anchorman 2.
Yeah.
And you know, like how that was just a movie. Even the cameos, like literally everybody was in that.
Including
movie.
You had one of the best roles in like comedy history.
It was hilarious.
Anchorman 2.
We thought you were messing with his mind, but then in the end, you really were. You show up in that fight scene. That was brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah, I think my guy was Gary, and I had a pony. It was the only role I've ever played where I had a ponytail.
It was like,
it was an odd picture on my body.
Yeah, it was like, let's make him less likable. Give him a douchebag ponytail.
Yeah, exactly. How could
he's taking Ron Burgundy's wife. Yeah.
But did you like Once Upon a Time? What did you think?
I did like it.
Good.
I really thought, like you said, I felt like it really captured beautifully such a great sense of place for Hollywood, and kind of, I got out here in the 80s, so, what is that, 1970? So it's 15 years span. It's amazing how much it's changed. It's amazing how much everything changes every 5 or 10 years, but, Hollywood included, and I felt like he genuinely pushed that clock back and put you in that world.
Exactly. The attention to detail.
He used like his little CGI. Like I don't even know if he used a lot of CGI. Yeah, it was crazy.
Yeah, I don't know where it was. I certainly hope that flamethrower was though CGI, or else somebody would hurt.
That was insane.
So like we were saying, you switch back from genre to genre so versatilely. You know, if I'm saying that word correctly, versatility.
A lot of versatility too.
You're very versatile. Yeah. Is there like a genre you prefer? Comedy, drama? You like it when they're mixed? The genres. Like, what do you prefer?
My versatilism prefers both. See what I did there. I don't.
I like that.
I don't really have a. I feel like I try to. It's the story and the script and who's doing it. Really, I guess is kind of where my interest peaks. So I don't search out dramas or comedies or any particular kind of movie. I feel like I just. First of all, they gotta be interested in me. We gotta get past that hurdle. They may not want me, in which case it doesn't really matter what I think of it. But when somebody's interested, obviously there's a few different questions, but that old boring answer that you hear that's almost cliche, it all starts on the page, is absolutely true. You really have to have something there. You'll see it, it when it's there. You'll know something special is there, and
for sure.
And I would say even with Brian Banks, the movie, coming out Friday, but it was one of those stories where I hadn't heard it before. I didn't know of it before. I thought it was interesting to Tom Shadyac, who had done a bunch of comedies.
Oh yeah.
From Liar to all those.
Nutty
Jim
Professor.
Carrey. I thought the idea of him doing a drama seemed interesting to me, and man, did he do a great job with it. I feel like there's just so many variables. Aldis, I didn't really know Aldis. He's a breakout star out of this movie. That's part of the excitement of doing what it is we do, because there are discoveries happening along the way, and that's part of the fun of it. So in that sense, this movie really provided a lot of surprises.
Yeah,
it's great. Yeah, it's a very powerful movie. There's so many people who are even now just incarcerated that are innocent. So it's a great movie to bring that to people's attention, and just about inspiring people to overcome obstacles that seem impossible.
And then, like you said about Little Miss Sunshine, it's kind of like all these variables, like a big recipe, kind of working together to bring all this out. And I think I definitely picked up on that vibe during Brian Banks.
Tom hadn't directed a feature film in 8 years. It's awesome.
Yeah, so it's been great, and we can't thank you enough for putting time out of your busy
taking
schedule.
your time out of this busy schedule.
And
then,
then
you're busy promoting it, and then doing everything else. You're acting in so many things. Like,
and we wanted, before
it means the world.
it does.
To us.
And we wanted to ask about the movie Loser a little bit too before we.
Oh yeah.
Because we know. I don't think you said you ever have seen it.
Because you signed our DVD of it. You said you hadn't seen it, but.
And it was Amy Heckerling. She directed Fast Times at Ridgemont High, Clueless. But it was a movie that when it came out,
that's just one of those small movies that we just came across on HBO, and the soundtrack, everything swept us up, and it became one of our favorites.
Watching it nowadays, it actually has a really good message. I think your kids would definitely really enjoy it.
Yeah.
It's just a great portrait in time.
It's the portrait of the.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out. I mean, I actually. I think I saw it when I think probably of the premieres.
Okay, you would definitely have done the premiere.
But I it was many years ago, and I just never I couldn't remember it, and I didn't really. But it's funny. I have had a few people say that they like the film.
You got to play the douchebag.
I gotta check it out. Gotta check it out.
Yeah, you got to. You did a really good bad guy in that movie. So,
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do remember I went and saw The Last Song on a Date when I was in college.
Yeah, it was freshman year.
That was you did a really good job in that movie.
Miley Cyrus,
Nicholas Sparks sort of movie. But if you watch the movie, they put poor Greg through a lot in that movie.
I am like slowly dying nonstop in that movie.
Yeah.
Because I sit here in this car, I'm riding home from a press junket, and here's Miley Cyrus on the cover of Vanity Fair. So look at that, boys. The whole world's made a whole turn here. I mean, this is crazy.
How serendipitous.
And by the way, she ended up marrying the guy that
Liam Hemsworth. Yeah,
right? I mean, crazy.
Yeah, I do remember my date drooling over Liam Hemsworth the whole time, and
just so many things can happen just because a movie was made. So many things can blossom and grow. It's crazy.
Just like how they're like, we have Greg Kinnear, so let's let him die slowly the whole movie.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. But that was a slow death in that one.
Oh yeah.
But always fun place to shoot though out there in Georgia. Boys, listen, this is awesome. You guys are off to a fabulous start. I'm proud, honored to be the introductory guest on what I hope will be as you said, on a very successful podcasting ocean. How about that?
Oh wow.
Yeah. Oh well, thank you so much, Greg.
We could not be more honored. Honestly.
Yeah. Having you as our first guest, we couldn't think of a better first guest.
Yeah, dream come true for real. And thank you for for all your enthusiasm too.
Thank you for doing what you do.
All right, guys.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it.
All right, you're the man, Greg.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Take my hand.